Hey, this is Connie Benjamin, and I'm with My Fire Within Radio, and I am so excited today to be speaking with the amazing Vivian Guzman. Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this amazing woman. First, Vivian, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are so amazing. I'm going to fill everyone in about a little bit about you. Honestly, her bio, she has so much to share, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek today. So Vivian got her broadcasting degree and she was on 24. You've seen the show. I know I saw it too. And she played a diva on Days of Our Lives. I love it. Hey, Harry Levin from TMZ? Well, he trained Vivian as the court reporter and host of the nationally syndicated TV show Moral Court. And she also passed a lie detector test, get this, to prove that she had the hots for Howard Stern, and that was featured on Extra. And she passed that test. So awesome. For the last decade, she has been a presenter for the auto shows, but when she suffered a health crisis, a very serious health crisis, that really made her pivot in what's going on. And actually, she left the auto show to create her own show called, get this, the title is so good, Dishin' It, where she really has transformational and impactful conversations in her kitchen. Oh my gosh. Vivian, I just love you and think you're amazing. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before this conversation, I said, hey, Vivian, do you want to discover your hidden story? And she said, yeah, let's do it. So we are going to dive into discovering Vivian's hidden story. Oh my gosh, her story is absolutely amazing. And we're going to discover it together. So for those of you that have seen me discover a hidden story before, you know how incredible this is, but you have not seen Vivian's hidden story yet. And so strap in for awesome. A few things to be aware of while we're doing this. Vivian doesn't know what questions I'm going to ask her. And so I love her vulnerability, Vivian, your vulnerability and your willingness to go through this process together. So thank you for doing this. You ready?
I'm ready. Take me on your carpet ride.
Okay, awesome. Just an awareness, when I go through the entire process and helping somebody through the influencer interview, I do this for hours where we dive into the whole story. Vivian, don't worry, I will not keep you here for hours. We've got about 15, 20 minutes to discover the hidden story. There's going to be times where I'm going to need to ask you more questions, dive deeper, and all of that. So here we go. Ready? Okay, awesome. Ready. Okay, awesome. So Vivian, this process only works with purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and I know you are. So tell me in one sentence, what has the divine put you here to do through your work?
That's intense, Connie. Started right off the bat.
I warned you. Right off the bat.
The divine wants me to dig deep and celebrate people because of the fact that I wasn't celebrated when I was a kid. I think I tend to celebrate outliers a little bit more. So I want to love up on people and sprinkle amazing jujus and bring positivity into the world.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Can you tell me in about a minute, how do you do the work that you do? I know let's shine a spotlight on Dishin' It, because this is an amazing show. And I want to know, walk me through it. How do you do the work that you do to shine that spotlight in the way that you do?
I hear people's stories, and they're extraordinary stories of perseverance. And when someone has a message inside of them that they haven't let anything stop them, they're almost fearless, they seem like they have this gift, so to speak, then that person, I need to celebrate that person. I need to know what allows them to fight through all the hardship. What gets them through? What gets them through when nobody's there in the darkest time? And how they can share it now and offer tips and tools for others to learn from that expert, so to speak, in the field of whether it's a domestic abuse survivor or somebody who was sexually trafficked or kidnapped, or an expert who has not necessarily gone through all of those things, but have amazing stories that they can share to help people live to their best potential.
Love that so much. You know, when you talked about helping people to get through those darkest times and really celebrating them and getting to that story. Can you tell me a little bit, Vivian, how is the work that you do differently from all the other shows out there? How is this one so different?
Well, I love to celebrate cultures. I love to offer a healthier alternative to eating. So I have control over that because I'm in my kitchen and I get to eat organically and honor my body. And I get to share that with my viewer and connect. It's not a cooking show, but it isn't not a cooking show. But it's not a cooking show in a way. It's more about the person who's there, and I celebrate their cultural background. So there's diversity, inclusion, global conversations. There's a lot of heart-centeredness, and it's beautiful, but it's fun at the same time. It's not sad either. It's a celebration of everything that we go through in life, with the character building moments that may help others.
That is amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about, now I know a little bit about your story in terms of you had that health crisis, but I want to know a bit more. Can you tell me why you decided to do this work? What was and walk me to the moment, Vivian. I want to know the moment that you're like, yep, I'm going to leave the car show. I'm going to start my own show. And this is what it's going to be about. Like, walk me through it.
So we all reach a point, I think, in different jobs when we know we should leave, when you know that all the signs are pointing to go, but you linger and that feeling stays with you and you feel like you're the last one at the party. I kind of felt that way. I kind of felt like I was feeling old and heavy, and I had gained all this weight because I started to lose my hair in the front. I was balding. I gained about 15 pounds overnight, and I didn't know what was going on. I woke up, date night, branzino, some mushrooms. Suddenly I fell asleep, woke up, and my face started to blow up like the Nutty Professor. It was the first time that happened to me, and it was the beginning of this 2-year debacle where my stomach would go out to like a 9 months pregnancy. At some point I could only handle quinoa and a little tomato. And I cried and I went to every doctor, from urine samples to feces to all the gross stuff that you would put in your fridge and then send out, to find out that you don't know, that nobody really knows. It wasn't hormonal. It wasn't thyroid. It wasn't lupus. It wasn't any of the other quote unquote autoimmune diseases that we knew. And I didn't know enough about autoimmune diseases to know where I fit. And it wasn't lupus. It wasn't anything like that, but it was certainly hurting my joints, and it certainly would make me tired. And it certainly gave me rashes, and I had to walk around with an EpiPen. I mean, skip through all of that. 2 years later, I end up finding out that perhaps it's a leaky gut syndrome. And, the whole journey of my emotional stuff led me to a shrink. And I went to a New York City shrink, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. She's telling me in 3 minutes that she thinks that I might have celiac. And she said, there was this woman who killed somebody, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on now. This is not my story. But then I left, and in frustration, I thought, what if? So I went on a gluten-free cleanse for 3 months. Yeah. Never enjoyed pizza more than when I got off of that, I tell you. And I was gluten sensitive, it turns out. Yeah. But I noticed that was the first time when I felt that food directly affected my mood. And I never thought about it before. And I thought I was eating healthy foods, and I thought food was food. And then, of course, I ended up discovering all about GMOs and reading every label and knowing what I couldn't put on my face, because at some point even makeup I couldn't put on my face. That's why I love makeup so much, Leah, that I could do it again. I'm so grateful for that, by the way. So that was my journey.
Gosh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Vivian, walk me through, now we got, you shared a little bit of your health journey with us. What was the moment that you decided dish in it? Like tell us the story of when that happened, because of course you wanted to be able to control the food and to be able to, have these incredible celebrations. Like, but walk me through the story. I want to know the story of when you decided, okay, I'm going to have these amazing dishes and I'm going to interview these incredible people. And we're going to tell their story. Like, how did that come about?
Organically, believe it or not. No pun intended, but I was working the auto show and I was in hotel rooms. And like I was saying, I could only eat quinoa and a tomato. And I started carrying this aroma grill and I would proselytize the cheer of this aroma grill, 4 pounds only, had a little grill at the bottom. And I would make decadent meals that were organic and order stuff. And I would have the most amazing conversations in my hotel room and throw all these parties, and it didn't stop me. And all of the people that are in the auto shows were we're a pack of outliers. So that's kind of like where the idea began. Like, wait a minute, I got something here. It could be a cooking show in hotel rooms. Thank God I never, got the alarm to go off. By the way, I smelled like food half the time in my uniform. And, but that's kind of like where it all began. And then, like, all the conversations that we have in my home and all the people that I've met throughout the world that are all multicultural, that I didn't want to miss out on. I didn't want to miss out on any of the foods that I wanted. I get bored eating my food. I mean, when I grew up, it was all chicken, rice, and beans. And as great as that is, as a Dominican girl, when that's the one thing you're eating, I was done. Like I thought when I was young, when I get older, there's got to be something outside of this.
Yeah.
And I love so many different foods. So in a way, all of that came together. I love to serve the person that's with me. I like to honor who they are, what their likes are in their foods. It tells me a lot about who they are, their adventure. There might be like some sort of book I might be writing on how I can determine your horoscope through your food diet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Totally, you need to do that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. One thing that as we're in this conversation today, I always look for patterns. And as you're talking, I hear you talking about really connecting with people, really celebrating people, wanting to honor them and honor their culture, and at the same time wanting to bring people together and really to also celebrate together. I want to ask you, of all the values that you have in this life, and in fact, not just right now, but that you've always had since you were a little kid, the one value that kind of stood by you this entire time, the one that you would fight for, that you would go to war for, what is the one value that is most important to you in this life?
Wow. I suppose loyalty.
Why?
Because I was easily discarded all throughout. And when someone loves you unconditionally, they never give up on you. And I've been very fortunate to have had a lot of people outside of my family that did, but not necessarily feeling that in my own home. Then I think loyalty is what I value most. The genuine kind, the one that that you feel the attraction instant, and it just leads to a lifetime of, I don't need any questions before or after. You killed that man, I'm going to help you bury the body. That kind of loyalty.
That is the best. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Okay, that's awesome. So deep loyalty, no questions, like just totally unconditional love, loyalty there. Thank you for sharing that. Vivian, now I'd like to go to story time. And I want to go to story time with Vivian, which is going to be the most fun story time there ever was. And I want you to take me to a moment, obviously a safe moment, but a moment when either you didn't have loyalty first, sorry, 1 second. So I want you to take me to a safe moment between the ages of 7 to 13. So between the ages of 7 to 13, and a moment where either you didn't have loyalty and you wish somebody would have, or you had it and you took a stand for it and you're like, this is freaking awesome, or you helped somebody else to feel that loyalty. You empowered somebody else. Can you take me to that moment?
Yes, that's so specific. I had a teacher named Robert Parks, and I was at my sister's house, my oldest sister's house at the time, living in Washington Heights, and we didn't always have extra money or money for lunch or things like that. We didn't go without per se, but we weren't, well, a lot of people living in one apartment building. And because I've moved 23 times to date, by the way. So we know, I know poverty well enough. So when I was going to school one day, I was at Roberto Clemente Junior High School. I met Robert Parks, and he was sitting outside, and I didn't have anything for lunch, and I was hanging out by the stoops and the steps. And he gave me a kudos bar, and he started a conversation, and he made me a monitor. I don't know if anybody today would know what a monitor is, but it was a sense of responsibility that I felt really special to have and open up doors for others. And he was a history teacher. He eventually became my pen pal when I was in Dominican Republic. And eventually he gave me away at my wedding. And I've now been married to my husband for 20 years.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Vivian, do you share that story?
I try to, yes.
Okay.
It's a beautiful story I have.
It is a beautiful story. Okay. So I'm looking for, because we're in story time with Vivian. So I'm looking for another story. And the story that I'm looking for is around celebration. Because one of the things that's been common, a consistent thread, and before I do that, I want to ask you about the next value that you have. So you've talked about celebrating people. You talked about helping people to be seen, you love honoring people in some of the darkest times that they've been in. And I want to know if you got that first value, you got loyalty, but you needed to fight for the next one, what would the next value be?
Integrity.
Why?
My father would always be do as I say, not as I do kind of person. My father was the type of person who, devalued whom I was within the context of my family. In our Hispanic culture, there is such a thing as, divide in culture. There is such a thing as being me considered not okay because I'm dark. So there was that feeling of feeling less than as a result of that. And then my father divorced my mom, and he married someone that was darker than my mom. And it was one of those things that felt like, really? So you could do everything that you want. You could leave, you could walk away, you could discard me, and I don't have any value. So there's no integrity in anything that's come out of your mouth. So that's a big one for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for that. You are absolutely amazing. So Vivian, I want you to take me to another story. And again, I'm looking for a story between the ages of 7 to 13 when either you, and obviously I'm looking for a safe story where, because I want this to be a safe place. So a safe story. But the first story that comes to mind, when I say safe story, I don't mean safe as in not being able to go vulnerable. I mean safe as in I know a lot can happen to people. So when you're looking for that story, we're looking for a story between the ages of 7 to 13. And it's a time in your life where either you wished, and I want you to take me to the moment in time, describe what happened, where either you wish somebody would have had integrity, or you had integrity and you stood up for yourself and you took a stand for that, or you helped somebody else. You had integrity for somebody else. Tell me the story.
I don't know if I can answer that right now without, I feel like I've always been there to help others. So it's not like anything stands out. I never wanted to get in trouble. I never rocked the boat. I never was, letting somebody in on what they did wrong when they did wrong. So like I was definitely always there for my oldest sister, and even for my brother and even for anyone because I was the youngest. So I think I kept it low key. I was a nervous kid. So I don't have an exact example. I think I tried to be quiet, and to be kind of a little more invisible, believe it or not. Because I'm very rambunctious in my energy. That's never stopped, but that was not necessarily rewarded either at home.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So you tried to stay invisible. Is there, you mentioned that you helped your sister and your brother. Is there, and I imagine at school you did too, is there a moment that stood out for you as to a moment when either you felt more seen or you wish somebody would have saw you?
I have always been open and receptive and have always felt the blessings despite any of the things that may have sounded horrible here to value every single second and celebrate every moment that came. So not only did I have Robert Parks, I had my friend Eugene Butler who came in, and we both felt ostracized at Roberta Clemente Junior High School, and we were buddies. And so I had him, and I would always sing, I am happy to be stuck with you, 'cause I can see that you're happy to be stuck with me. Ooh, oh, ooh, oh. That's a cool story. I met him, and then I bumped into him in high school because I went back to Dominican Republic and we lost touch. This is before emails and all of that fun stuff and cell phones and beepers. Mm-hmm. And so when I came back to A. Philip Randolph Campus High School in New York City, mm-hmm. I was going up the stairs and bumped smack right in front of him. And it was just such another great reunion.
Oh my gosh. What was his name again?
Eugene Butler.
Eugene. Okay. So did you have a lot of friends in school? You said that you and Eugene, you stuck together.
We stuck together.
Yeah. Tell me the moment when you felt, because you were looking to feel visible. Tell me the moment that you realized that Eugene had your back, that you, or a moment when you had his back. Tell me a story, Vivian. I want to go to story time. Any story.
Oh God. We both ended up going into television and radio in school later on. Yeah. When we were together, I don't know if we shared homeroom and a few other classes, but any project that happened, I think we both felt like we were better studying together and doing it together because we connected. Because the school was kind of aggressive and kids were tough and bullying was there. And they used to call me the Vanna White, as if. But he always saw me, and we always had like that, that whole connection that you have instantly when you talk to someone, and it's like magic is there and it doesn't matter. So I don't have anything specific. I know later on we tried to work in something when we were in college and try to dream about projects and shared more. By then we had become different people, and eventually he moved to another state. And I'm not today he's a father, and I have lost touch again, but he's, on Facebook. So he's a phone call away.
That is so awesome. Oh my gosh. I just love you. Thank you so much for sharing all of those stories. I am so grateful for you. And I think you're so amazing. And I think we got it. Can I share with you, Vivian, who I'm hearing you to be based on what you've shared with me so far, knowing that this is just the beginning. Like, this is just the surface. I totally understand that. But can I share with you who I hear you to be so far?
I've been waiting.
Yeah, you're like, come on, lady. Oh my gosh. Okay. Vivian, who I hear you to be is somebody that is always seeking to edify the people around you. You're somebody that understands what it's like to not feel visible, to feel like you have to shrink. And you take a stand for people to help them to be celebrated in the moments, the hardest moments that they go through. You're somebody that has deep love and compassion for people, and you have high standards. You want people to have high integrity, to be loyal, and that's really important to you because you want it to be real. And it's important to you. It's amazing. The other thing I'm hearing from you is that you're a bridge between cultures. So not only do you help people, not only do you help people to see themselves as you see them, because when you look at them, it's like you can see them in a way that you're like, you're amazing. And you help them to see that in themselves. You celebrate who they are and their resilience. You celebrate their story, and you do it in a fun way. You always bring the fun. You always bring the food and the celebration. And this is what you've always been doing. Like here you are in a car show and you're like, hey guys, come to my room and I'll make you something in the hotel room with what you've got. You've always been the person that brings people together and helps people to feel loved and to be celebrated. And I think that you do that because when you describe what happened as a kid, you know what it's like to go through really hard times. You know what it's like to go through poverty. You know what it's like to have bullying. You know what it's like to, have cultural divides. When you're talking about your dad, you're talking about cultural divides based on skin tone. You understand what that feels like, how awful that feels. And you understand what it's like to feel like you don't have value. And so I think that, and at the same time, you know what it's like to have somebody stand up for you. You know what it's like to have your teacher to stand up for you. And interesting that he shared food with you, no? Like this is the perfect thing that he could have shared, right? He shared food with you. He bridged that. He helped you to be seen. And then your friend Eugene, in those moments where there was bullying and there was all this stuff going on and they didn't see you, you had a friend that saw you and you saw him. I think that you do the work that you do because you're taking a stand for bringing cultures together and celebrating cultures, celebrating people, helping them to be seen, to be heard, to understand their value. And this is what you do in your life. Did I understand you right?
You got me, baby. That's fine. Thank you. That's beautiful. You're very talented, Connie.
Thank you. What's it like to go through this process with me today?
You know, it's a beautiful feeling because we don't tend to see ourselves that way sometimes. You know, you do. I mean, you as an interviewer, you do this all the time, right? But if somebody reversed the table and said beautiful things about you, about what a wonderful listener you are, and how I would love to reverse that and do that with you and know what stories you have in store now and share why you do what you do. But just to be validated and edified it's its own celebration right there. It's something we need to put in our pockets every time we go to work the next day.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being willing to go through this process with me. I just think you're amazing. And I'm so, so grateful for your amazing story. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you for having me. I love you, Connie.
I love you too. How can we connect with you? I know that's the only other question on all of our minds.
Well, Vivian Inc. on Instagram, Dishing It on Instagram, Vivian Incorporated at Gmail. That's for starters.
Awesome. I encourage you to connect with Vivian. She's the real deal. Her heart is so full. And I think the biggest thing that I learned from this conversation, Vivian, is how important it is to connect people, to celebrate people. And I love that you're taking a stand for that. Thank you so much for being with us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
For those of you watching today, connect with Vivian. She's amazing. And I encourage you to tell your own story because the world is waiting for it. And until next time, let your fire light up the world.
Woo! I love that.